Most people wait for the perfect moment to build, but true innovation starts when you have the courage to open the first door. Welcome to Reimagina Blueprints. I'm Antonia Herrera, and here with the code, the world's most disruptive minds, to give you a shortcut to impact, para que puedas construir el futuro hoy. Esta biblioteca de conocimiento nace en Latinoamérica como un puente hacia el liderazgo global. And because knowledge has no borders, we'll continue in English. In this episode, we talk with Erila Haska. She is the founder of Voice of Women in Innovation, COO for GIMI Institute, Senior Innovation Management Consultant at IXL Center. With executive education from MIT and Stanford, she has advised Fortune 500 companies, has taught around 1,000 students, and mentored hundreds. By the end of this conversation, you will have the blueprints to navigate corporate innovation and scale beyond conventional boundaries. Let's Reimagina Blueprints with Erila Haska. What are the first 3 rules for turning a random idea into a repeatable business function?
First of all, what any business, any company, any organization should keep in mind is that innovation should be a strategic imperative. It's not an exercise, just an exercise of creativity and brainstorming and coming up with a bunch of ideas, but the leader should put that as the main mandate that, hey, we need to innovate. And this should be documented, this should be communicated all across the company. And it starts from this. If you don't have this, you have nothing. Second thing is you need also to choose a framework or a model of innovation, not get distracted of too many, because I've seen different big companies that sometimes different kind of departments or BUs have been using different frameworks, right? Depending on the companies that they have been working with. And at some point that got kind of messy, right? Because they couldn't speak the same language of innovation together. We need to choose basically one framework and speak the same language and get trained on this language. The other thing which is important is that sometimes even though the leader might emphasize basically that, hey, innovation is important, we see this that this happens, and it's normal that an operational overload kind of blocks or makes them lose the focus from innovation. And this is normal, right? Because you are stuck into bureaucracies, you are stuck into producing the cash now, or firefighting different kind of issues that you get every day, and that loses your focus. And now what happens, what you need to do is make sure that most of your employees or every employee should have a certain percentage of time to focus on innovation. For example, a typical one is Google, who what they did is 20% of time of their employees to focus on innovation. Think about what can we solve in terms of the trends that are going on, what innovative solutions can we come up with the current business that they have. So normally you need to allocate a percentage of time to your employees to think about innovation, and not just say, hey, innovation is important, but they don't have time, actually, because this is one of the problems that I hear most. And then probably I mentioned 3, but I would say also something else which is important. I see sometimes that companies, what they do is usually focus on a silver bullet or focus on one concept. You can't win in the market by focusing just in one concept or coming up with just one product, let's say. You need to focus what we say in fields of plays or platforms, basically, which differently are blue oceans of different concepts and ideas. And let's take the example of Apple. This is what they did with the i kind of platform. They didn't come just with the iPhone. They came with the iPad, they came with Mac, they came with a bunch of products which were seamlessly connected. That was their platform. If you get you have to have the Mac or you have to have the iPad, because all are connected is one system, and that was the difference that they did compared to what Android or Samsung or other companies did. So in that sense, is focusing on a field of play or platform is important if you really want to win in the long term.
Awesome. Thanks for your insights, because it's quite important to have the overall. It's more in the corporate perspective, but I would like to ask you if you can elaborate a simple definition, what it means to you, innovation.
Innovation, well, I'll rely on the definition that Global Innovation Management Institute has, where I am Chief Operation Officer. Innovation is not just creating a new value, but also capturing that new value. For us, creating new value is just invention, but innovation is not
Oh,
invention, right? You might come up with great inventions, but are worth of nothing. Capturing the value is the most important part of innovation, which means, hey, we don't do innovation for the sake of innovation. We do innovation for growth. And that might be financial growth for a company, which in the end, that's most important. But for a government might be better services to our citizens, more efficient services, more effective services, cheaper services, right? So in different
yeah.
organizations might take different meanings, but what's most important is to capture that impact. Might be financial, might be no financial impact.
Before we move on, I want just to take a time to acknowledge the extraordinary work you have done over the years. Specifically, I want to celebrate the fact that you are the founder of Voice of Women in Innovation. And it's not just a nice name, it's a community, a network that I'm very proud to be part of. It's a space dedicated to showcasing the works of women in innovation across many industries, a place that gives us visibility, support, and safe space to exchange ideas and share stories. I need to, again, be very grateful for that because I found passionate women working there, talking to each other, exchanging ideas. And thanks to be part of this community, you give me the openness to foster this idea that we are right now putting in action, that is Reimagina Blueprints. Because this was like an idea that I have saved for probably 2 years from now. And I start talking to you, and suddenly I found the place to start building this in collaboration. That is the most important thing. That being said, is recognize everything that you've done. Thanks again for building this extraordinary community. And having this said, I want to ask you, what happened or what had to happen in your life to create Voices of Women in Innovation? Why VOWI exist?
First of all, thank you for everything that you said. Sounds flattering, but I think I've done something that everybody does. All women I know mostly work hard and do things with passion, and you are one example of those. When I went into innovation management industry, I felt that it was male dominated. When I was trying to find
Yeah.
speakers, when I was trying to find partners, I was always bumping into gray hair men, which is okay, it's good, but I felt like, where are women here? I saw that it's not that there are not women who are chief innovation officers or chief technology officers, but the problem is they don't make themselves visible out there most of the time. When you are finding people for an event or to speak, usually they would say a more no rather than yes as compared to men. I don't judge them because they have too many things on their shoulders, right, to do,
Of
and they
course.
have to select. And also there is this thing that I learned, lack of confidence. And LinkedIn has done some studies that they women and men see the same open jobs, but
Mm.
women apply in fewer of those, 20% less. Uh, there are many studies out there that are done by Forbes and Harvard. The lack of confidence to apply for a job. They believe that they are not ready for that or good enough to apply.
Yes. What a big
So
issue. Yeah.
so lack of confidence makes them also don't not taking the stage to speak things, or not writing an article, or not being bold in that sense. So I saw this. Second, while I was doing research and I was speaking around, I saw that many products that we use are not created or designed with the women lens.
Mm.
You can go from different industries, automotive industry, where the car safety was tested based on male's anatomy, but our body shapes and everything is different. 73% of women were having more serious injuries while they were in car accidents because that wasn't tested or designed for women. And same thing
Yeah.
if you go to health, 1 in 7 women go undiagnosed for PCOS, ovarian cancer, cardiovascular diseases, the symptoms are different compared to males.
Totally.
I saw this and said, hey, there is a huge problem out there. And I think we need to create a network where we, first of all, speak out about this problem and raise the voice about this problem, write articles. We created a speaker series where kind of more women take the stage and they can speak up about different topics. And it's like even a platform they can train themselves because sometimes you don't need to be perfect speaker or having the perfect English to speak about, but you might have lots of insights, right? So I wanted to make that very open. And then we have done other things, which is kind of, first of all, having a safe space. So I invited chief innovation officers from great companies, great consultants, researchers, so kind of faculty members on innovation. So different sectors or industries, different regions. We have kind of members right now from more than 30 countries. And this is a safe space to speak about all the challenges, share those with the world, and think about solutions amongst each other.
Yeah, and I want to, because you mentioned this regarding to women's don't speak up, like they don't go to the spaces and take action and say, hey, I'm here. That's because we have all these ancestral norms that we need to do and be whatever society tell us to be. And I want to bring this up because I see it myself with the Reimagina Latam, for instance, is something that I can notice that I reach out at least, I don't know, let's say at the very beginning that I reach out like 50 people to find voices that wanted to be interviewed for Reimagina Latam. And for me, it was quite important to have this like radical diversity and inclusion. So I said to myself, okay, I want at least 50% women, 25% non-binary, 25% men. And that number wasn't achievable. I did all my best, but I was like trying to bring and encourage women to be interviewed, to be visible, to speak, to talk about their journey. And it's difficult. And the other day I was talking with Charlotte, is the name of the member of boy community. And she told me something that I always going to remember. The thing is, women have this need to feel legitimate first. So sometimes it's not necessary. And that's why I deeply appreciate all the efforts that you're doing and this vision that you have, because it is absolutely necessary, not only for global communities, in local communities too. Let's put it aside, this thing with inclusion that for some people sometimes it's like a good thing to have. But I want to ask you in regarding to innovation for companies, do you think it's an advantage that any corporate have a leadership position of women? Do you think it's a good asset, a good thing to have regarding to diversity?
Absolutely. And this is not because women make or comprise 50% of the global population. And if
No.
you are taking them into consideration, then it's a big mistake. And I think it's a mistake economically for businesses of not having women in decision making, leadership position, innovation teams, because they are going to misread customer insights. Let me tell you this, there are different studies. Some studies say more than 90% or 80% of purchasing decisions are made by women. Whether it's what car to buy or where to send kids to college or what formula to buy for the baby. And sometimes it's direct and sometimes it's indirect influence. Okay. So in that sense, if you are a company, let's say, which you are Nestle and you are producing a formula for babies and you don't have women in decision making innovation teams, then is a big mistake because there is nobody better that knows their kids or their babies more than you, right? And, for example, iPhone when they first came out wasn't very um, comfortable out for the hand of a woman, which is different kind of, right? And it has to be adjusted, or it didn't come with the app which tracks your menstrual cycle, and they added
But
like
important thing to take
yeah,
that.
the add on, or for example, the clothes that a fireman or firewoman wears weren't designed for a woman before, because mainly it was a male dominated industry. Same thing for us for now. So in this sense, if you don't have women in decision making or innovation teams, you are going to not win in the market, let's say, because in the end, they are your customers as well.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. I'm moving a little bit more into these insights, but I want to trace a connection between your story, your beginnings in innovation. Can you tell me about your background, everything that brings you here right now in this precise moment?
Yeah, I come from a family business, so I learned the basics of a business and entrepreneurship at very early age, as well sales and negotiation. My mom has been an entrepreneur, and I've seen her all my life working hard, right? And that was my motto, in a way. And I learned sales since I was 12 years old or
Wow.
something like that, because that was something that my father as well encouraged me in our family business. But also what I learned from my mom, it's important to be independent as a woman, to have financial independency, first of all, and working hard, because that is kind of going to help you become a good person. Not just a successful person, but a good person, because you learn the values and you get to know people. And in that sense, I got inspired a lot by my mom and my parents, in terms of first of all business, but also being a hardworking woman, and always raising the voice. And then I got graduated on business administration, both bachelor and master's, and then did several executive education programs abroad. And first, I had different experiences, but I would say the majority of my experience was in the non-governmental organizations, where I worked with different donors, and we worked in socioeconomic issues from youngsters to help them integrate in the workplace, or help them empower them economically and as well socially, to creating different platforms for startups and social entrepreneurship. So I was a researcher. I was a mentor for different social enterprises to help them set up their business, as well startups. I trained them. I mentored them. I helped them grants. I created a platform where they could find consultants and investors in one place. So of course, with the help of a team. I worked also in crowdfunding, and we did the first live crowdfunding event, for example, in Western Balkans, where different social causes can get funding from different people in one room at the same time. That was a model called Giving Circle from London. So mainly I worked a lot on startups, so entrepreneurship and business, which is also my passion, but also the passion that I have to help youngsters and create communities. I was also a professor in business school. And again, I was doing this more because of the joy of working with youngsters and helping them find a job, helping them learn a little bit more how the market works. So I did that also for more than 6 years. And then I went into innovation management consultant at ISO Center. And then I got this kind of responsibility at Global Innovation Management Institute, which is the largest certifying body on innovation management, where we have a large network of 18,000 members, innovation professionals, where we help them with training, certification, tools on innovation as well, and thought leadership. So also there, it's about network and partnership. We have like 30 big partners all around the world, and innovation. So if I would summarize, my whole career is a lot about creating networks and connecting with people, creating innovative solutions, whether it's for social enterprises or startups or big corporates or governments or NGOs.
There's something that got my attention regarding to GIMI Institute, because I don't know if everyone knows what it means. These certifications that you mentioned, GIMI Inbook and ISO 56001. In simple terms, what does this mean? What it represents for a professional or for a company to have this certification?
Yeah. GIMI has different certifications for individuals and organizations. For individuals is basically certifications around how to drive an idea to commercialization. The first question that you ask pretty much really how you can make an idea real. It's part of a business, it's part of an organization, so they get certified as innovation professional. Then has a certification again for chief innovation officers about how you build an innovation management system internally. And these certifications came after, of course, a long, extensive work done by our thought leaders like Tendra Patel and Ronald Jonas and others who tried a lot to make innovation management a profession. Same thing as it is marketing today, same thing as it is accounting. And then we have certifications for organizations from level 1 to level 4, and this is to certify organizations. We have our innovation management systems we are running basically. Why is this important? This is important, and this is also related to ISO. What ISO has been trying to do, and we are also members of it. And actually, some of our thought leaders have been founding ISO Technical Advisory Group in US. This was done again to formalize innovation management, and this is not to formalize innovation, because I know there are many skeptics out there that, hey, how can you standardize innovation? Okay, innovation cannot be standardized. It's not about standardizing innovation, it's about standardizing innovation management. Because if you don't manage innovation thoughtfully or intentionally in an organization, then it will be messy. You will come up with a bunch of ideas, you will make real some of those, but it will be out of luck and not intentional as the best or greatest companies are doing today to win in the market. So for sure, you need a management system, a process of innovation, people trained on innovation, KPIs to track innovation, strategy, most important, with fields of play, with portfolio concepts, how to win in the market.
Yeah, well, this last thing that you mentioned, I connected with the next question, and I want to give us the methodology behind it. How a company that wants to stop being lucky and start being innovative by design. What are the steps to be that company?
First of all, you need the leadership to buy in into innovation, and I see sometimes that they hire innovation officers and the innovation officers find themselves stuck because they say, hey, but my leader doesn't know much about innovation. I don't have a budget. I don't have any team. I don't have anything. And I don't know how to make it real. So first of all is you need to make the leadership buy in into innovation, or the board to buy in into innovation, make that part of their mandate and strategic imperative. Communicate, document to all employees that, hey, we are innovating. This is our definition of innovation. These are our fields of play. This is the portfolio of concepts. This is the process how we do innovation from idea to commercialization, and all people are trained on this process. You have a team, and doesn't mean you have to have a big team on innovation, because it can work also for cross-functional teams. So every innovation is everybody's job. It's not 2 or 3 people or a department's job. So everybody needs to think outside of the box and come up with new ideas beyond their operation. And they need to have also the right resources, which is a budget, but not necessarily a budget. You need to have networks. You need to have technologies, assets to help you make this real. And then you need discipline, how to make it real. So you need the metrics. If you are not measuring innovation, then it's less. You need KPIs at individual level, team level, and connect those KPIs to the organization level. What's a big goal? Let's say financial growth, specific growth. We want to increase our revenue basically by 20%. But might be also we want to increase the speed from idea to from concept to market. And then you need, of course, to make sure that besides the CEO or the board, you need to have leaders in different units who are pushing for innovation all across levels.
Yes, I was wondering while I was listening to you that I want to know what are the most important metrics or KPIs to know if a company is actually innovating or it's just wasting time. What is the KPI that we need to see?
Look, there is not a single KPI because it depends a lot from the company, from the sector. There are many companies that are measuring the number of ideas that their employees come up with. It's important because it shows that, hey, they are creative or they are training the muscle of creativity, but it's not the most important. What's most important probably is to measure how many of those ideas make it to the market and are successful, right? This is one. Second is out of all these efforts that we are doing on innovation, let's say we have a process, we have a great funnel from an idea to a concept or to a proof of concept. Basically, it is fast. There are not many bottlenecks or steps. What's important in the end, are you achieving the goal that you have? We always say in the beginning, you have a CEO has to write an innovation intent, and the innovation intent, there is a growth gap. Every company has a growth gap. Where you are now, which is the difference between where you are now and where you want to be in the next 3 or 5 years, or maybe 10 years. But usually we measure by 3 or 5 years. And usually there is a difference there, right? Or there is a gap. And you have to have this big, hairy, audacious goal. And based on that, it trickles down into the other KPIs that you have as a build, as teams, or and as individuals, basically.
Yeah, I want to take a moment to talk about this KPI about teams, because people is the most important thing in all this. This is the way I see it. But I want to take a time to talk about leadership in those teams, because to execute effectively, you need a great leader. What it does that mean to you? What is a big leader, a great leader, to create actionable innovation in a corporation, in a company, or in a startup?
Okay, that's a good question. First of all, is a leader who embraces diversity. And what means embraces diversity is he's surrounded or she's surrounded by different people, or they create a diverse team, and doesn't mean a diverse team only by gender, but by ethnicity, by background as well. They are a part of different networks. Basically, they go out, talk to people, join different networks, and not the same networks basically that his or her peers are, because we tend to sit with people who are similar like us, right? Because we have similar interests probably. But you need to go out of your comfort zone. Diversity is key in innovation, because what innovation is, you need many dots. And our thought leader in GIMI always says that you need always more dots and better dots. And how you get these dots is by traveling, by reading many books, by listening many podcasts, by really hanging out with different people who are different from you. Second, I think it should be a leader who really takes the feedback, because sometimes there are leaders who think that what they say is the best, cannot be judged or denied. But basically, it's important in innovation. We always say there is a phase in innovation called diverge, where you brainstorm ideas. This phase diverge, you need all people who are creative, are optimistic, people who come up with ideas. And even if you don't like those ideas, you have to accept those ideas. No idea is dumb at that stage, right? So it has to accept different ideas, but also has to accept the feedback if something is wrong, basically. And then you need a leader who really can move the team, because you can't get stuck in that phase. They will generate great ideas, but what about the results in the end? So it has to be a person who is organized and has an intuition, because sometimes, you won't have all the facts at any moment. At some moment, you have to move on with your gut feeling, and you have to have that intuition to understand, okay, this is something that might work in the market, and I have to move on. I have to make the team move on. And then it's also the part of building a motivated team around you, beside diversity. I don't think an organization really survives without a motivated team, at least a core team. If people do not find a purpose in their work, are not passionate about that, you always will be trying all the time to push them, to do their work, basic work. But it's so hard to make people be creative or think differently if they don't have that in their DNA, if
Mhm.
they are not motivated themselves, right? So you can try, but it's difficult. So surround yourself with people who find purpose in their work, are motivated, love innovation, love creativity, but also lead by example. Because there are some leaders who you show up to work and don't have energy at all. But if you don't have energy yourself, if you don't show up with energy yourself, despite what issues you have, you might be sick. Doesn't matter. You have to show energy because energy is the fuel for these people.
Right.
And in the end, I will close with this. Any leader, anybody, I do believe they need their mentors as well. So you need to find your mentors in life. And I've been lucky, at least always. I believe I have had the right mentors, right? So relying on the right mentors, choosing them, but also staying next to them to learn or to have them for an advice because anybody might make a mistake and in the end we need to really go there to what we call wise old
Mhm.
to give us an advice how we can really untangle an issue or find a solution about something, or we have a team which is not motivated, or we don't have the right team. What should we do? Making those tough decisions sometimes it's too heavy for you. But when you
Yeah.
hear from others or you have a mentor, it helps you also make the right decision. Sometimes they are your inner voice and you
Mhm.
need that kind of push to make that decision.
Yeah, he's someone that already lived that situation and he knows or she knows
Yeah.
like it's no worries. This is something that we can fix. So yes, the influence of a good mentor is extremely important. And how can we choose a right mentor? Because it's easy to say, but what qualities, what characteristics in the persona we need to find to say, okay, this is a good mentor for me
Look,
on my journey.
I think first of all, it goes back to you in the sense
Mm.
that first of all you need to seek guidance and inspiration because sometimes I see people, oh, but I don't have a mentor or where to find a mentor. It's not that hard, but the problem is sometimes you are not seeking guidance and inspiration. Or
Oh.
sometimes people at some point in their journeys, they feel too mature to have a mentor or ask for an advice. I've seen that, right? And they see, oh, I know, or why should I ask for that? So you need to be humble and grateful despite where you are in your journey. Look, a mentor might be a person who not necessarily is your supervisor or is your boss, might be a person who there is a chemistry in the sense
Mhm.
that learn a lot from them. Okay, they are also willing to give you advice and teach you and have a conversation together. But might be also outside of your work, might be in a different network. For example, in VOWI, that's kind of one of the
Yeah.
reasons having finding even a mentor, right? Or might be other kind of friendship circles or so it can be found everywhere. The question is this the right mentor or not? Because you will understand that you see that, you feel this. It is how willing you are all the time
Yeah.
to seek for guidance and inspiration. And in the end, you will be the one who will filter with your own judgment those advices. And one of the advices I give always is authenticity is your anchor in the sense that despite who your mentors are, sometimes, at least for me, I don't create idols. This is
Okay.
the ideal leadership or this is the ideal professional. I don't have that. But I get advice from many people, even my peers, even subordinates, despite the fact that I have mentors, of course, but get those advices and not necessarily become them because all of us have our flaws. They have their flaws as well. And the beauty relies on the authenticity of who you are, but be open to learning. This is the most important thing.
Yeah, it's something that be aware of ourselves, but also be aware that we always need another voice. Be humble I want to mark that word because it's important. Be humble. Like, not try to say, "Oh, I know everything." There's people that knows kind of everything, but not everything. And be humble with that, because the insights that brings someone else that you deeply appreciate, maybe you don't put it in a pedestal, but someone that you at least respect, is inspiration for you to grow. So I agree with your what you're saying. Um, this is thinking we are thinking about the human realm, like everything is regarded to humans. But right now, there's other thing happening. Everything is changing so rapidly, and I want to take a moment to talk about our relations to humans. We already know we are working on that, but now we have another variable that is AI. So there's a lot of things regarding to this. There's fear of job displacement. You, as a consultant, what do you believe is the only human skill that will remain evergreen and safe from automation? I don't know, for the next 5 years or 10 years.
Look, I think in every stage of humanity, people have this fear of something new, right? Have been this the same fear with the launch of internet and AI. I think is even bigger. But kind of with every trend that comes, basically and stays. I think the launch of smartphone or mobile phone was one of the biggest as well. Kind of changed
Yeah,
the whole world.
the
And
game
you see that
entirely.
some professions die or decline and new professions are born. In that sense, basically, you need to really catch the wave of change, I would say, and always be curious. Because I mean, if you are a laggard and you will be always kind of fearing, oh, what should I do? I think what AI is not going to kill is the critical thinking.
Yeah, quite important. Yeah,
So the critical thinking, because this is, I think, one of the most powerful things that we humans have. AI is becoming very good, or
yeah,
in also the way it's thinking and processing. But I do think critical thinking that humans have, and you have to train critical thinking. Okay. Also, it's also the education system that kind of trains that a lot. So you have to read a lot, meaning you have to read a lot of philosophy, a lot of art, a lot of history, of course, sciences as well, but religion as well. If you don't read a lot, you cannot train critical thinking or even form or shape your own critical thinking. I see most of the people take that as a truth, the standard truth or the absolute truth. If you don't criticize what you read in the sense of think, oh, is
yes,
this or should be something else? Let me add something else. And even you see, even the ones that are using AI, the most successful ones are the ones who are doing the best prompts, right? But I would say also this curiosity, right? Because what
yeah,
AI does right now is processing any secondary data. If you are not curious, exploring and exploring, you won't be at the forefront of any change that is happening. And let's take in consulting, where I am in right now. Insights is not more the bottleneck because with AI you can analyze trends, patterns, markups, and anything else, generate trends. So consulting right now is not anymore we see what you can't see, but is we help you decide. We help you make a decision, right? And how we help you make a decision is by really using the critical thinking. Or let's say right now, for example, what AI cannot do in consulting is really they cannot navigate the politics inside an organization
it's something
or
that they cannot do.
yeah, or challenge
There's
the
no
power
way.
structures, basically, or build trust across
Hmm.
silos. Consulting is not right now workshop heavy or tool driven or just based on selling frameworks and models because you can find them easily right now
Yeah,
through AI. AI is even faster than you can do faster analysis. You don't need teams. You can
completely.
do this with individuals, can give you more polished output in less time and doesn't need yourself kind of to iterate, but it gives you that in real time. So right now, even the consulting is moving towards decision making, more strategic, more CEO driven, basically more human, more confrontational, because this is what it remains with us right now. being more human and kind of interacting more. We have been relying a lot on this online right now and remote thing and all this, but I think it forces us now to go out and be more human to get the insights that probably we cannot find in ChatGPT or Gemini or other AI.
And I'm curious, how do you use AI in your daily work, in innovation work?
Yeah, we use kind of different tools. Basically, we use a lot of Gemini for
Okay.
different. They can create kind of AI agents there to help you kind of by putting there the case studies, putting our methodology and others. We are very fast, and we have incorporated AI in many programs that we have. We use a lot Synthesia, basically for videos and LLM notebook.
With everything that is going on there, okay, we are talking about in the job, working with AI and all this stuff, but what we can say to the new generations to come, how to connect not only with their ideas, but if they actually want to be around innovation, what is your biggest piece of advice that you can give them?
What I see with the new generation is I like them because they are very good in creating or putting boundaries. But on the other hand, I feel that sometimes they are reluctant to put their time in solving different situations, or let's say they are afraid of working hard. And is something I've learned from my experiences. When you are out of college, you have done your studies, you have learned, but you don't know how it works in practice, right? Unless you are a genius, okay, and create your own startup immediately. Otherwise, time is your most precious asset. Is what you bring at the table, basically. And that time is the only thing that you have. So if you shy away from responsibilities, from the workload, from different challenges, you won't grow your skills. You won't be resilient, basically, and you won't learn a lot. So you won't build your confidence. You won't build your trust, the trust among your peers or coworkers. So I think my biggest advice is really use your time. Don't shy away of putting more time beyond your 8 hours, because it's the moment where you are learning, and it's the moment where you kind of build the trust among the coworkers and the company you are working with. And then be curious, okay? Raise your hand to learn always. So go beyond what you are doing, beyond your task. Because sometimes everybody wants to finish their tasks and I'm done and I've done a great job. But I think the ones who are winning are the ones who are curious what the other coworker is doing. Go and help them, because you can learn something beyond that. And people will see, your supervisor, different mentors will see that, hey, you are curious, you are going beyond and above, you are going the extra mile, and they are going to give you another task or another responsibility or another challenge where you will grow. I don't like always one generation blame to the new generation. Oh, they are lazy and all this. No, I don't believe they are lazy. The Gen Zs or the Gen Alpha that is coming, I don't believe they are lazy, but I think maybe it's because they have seen their parents or maybe for sisters or brothers putting sometimes too much work and burning out probably, and they are putting more boundaries right now. I do believe that. But I feel like if you really find the purpose in your work, you won't burn out. I think burnout comes basically not from work itself, but comes because you are in the wrong place. Okay, that's not the thing that you like. That you are burned out. But if you find a work which has a meaning for you, then really you will excel. This is my advice, really. Don't shy away of responsibilities. Raise your hand. Put your time. That's the only thing you have that can bring at the table if you are someone who is fresh out of college.
It's important to bring that up, women in innovation too, as you do in the community, but also regarding to authors that already did the job. So for instance, I found Linda Hill, that she have a beautiful quote that I want to bring to you and tell me your thoughts about it. She says, innovation is not about a solo genius. It's about a collective genius. What do you think about this?
We always say that you might be a Harvard graduate, for example, you might be super smart and a genius, but you don't have many contacts or you don't have a network. But you might be a person who probably you aren't graduated from the same kind of reputable, let's say,
Mm,
college. But on the other hand, you are a person who knows how to build network, knows how to connect with people, and you might have 30,000 in your LinkedIn or 1,000 contacts in your phone, and definitely we would prefer that person because we know how that for a problem that we might have in the company, that person can go and reach out to this to his network or her network, and that he or she can solve the situation faster. Because despite how smart you are, you can't solve any problem of the world. You need the
yes.
collective knowledge. We haven't seen something in innovation which has been a solo work yet. There have been theories from Einstein or from other physicians, but also they have been surrounded by different people. But in particular, when you talk about business innovation and you build something that goes to the market that is embraced by millions of people or thousands of people, it can be something solved only by a person because despite how smart you are, you have certain dots inside your brain, right? You don't have all
Yes.
the in the world. So you need different people to get different perspectives, basically, or networks.
Yeah, is extremely important. I want to add something because this is an era of solopreneurs too, because it's not that people is doing everything by themselves, is kind of got help with AI. But at the end, the important thing of have this connection, this community space that we can exchange ideas is the vital thing at the end. You can be a solopreneur, but at some point you need to exchange ideas with a human being, even though there's actually founders that are their CTOs are AI. And it's from my part or for my side, I think it's okay. But the human connection and the knowledge that you exchange is extremely valuable. So talking about this community, because I want to continue talking about VOWI, based on the experience building VOWI, what is the first most important action for someone wanting to start their own community as you did?
Don't wait for the permission of somebody
Mm,
else. This is the first thing. I'm a person who has this bias for action. So kind of I think about things, but I don't overthink. I like to try things and build the plane while you are flying. In fact, for that would be perfect, but you built it on the way. And this is how I did also with voice. This is how I've done with many things that I do. So at some point I move. I like to execute fast because by executing fast you learn a lot
yes.
and you learn much more than the others who are waiting. So there is an expression that a good plan basically executed now is better than a perfect plan executed 1 week later because you can learn fast by experimenting and then you can iterate very fast and you can go to a new version from zero point 0.8 version to version 1.0. So in that sense, really don't wait for somebody to say, oh, yes, this is great. Yes, ask for ideas, discuss things, but start from something because the journey will tell you basically itself how you can move on and what you should do. This is one thing. And then the other thing is really, we talked about the confidence. I am not a person who thinks that, hey, you have to jump or to step onto the stage without being prepared or these things. You have to over prepare because we know that women are sometimes have these biases. Yeah, over prepare, accept it, okay? Over prepare when you do something, but also on the other hand, find the confidence within you and step onto the stage, lead meetings, present ideas, don't hesitate. And Sheryl Sandberg says, like, lean forward. Don't sit on in the second row, basically, but sit in the first row. Be bold, be seen.
Yeah, you already said powerful things. What is your number one piece of advice for the next generation of women in innovation and in any other field?
Don't wait for permission to innovate. Start where you are with what you know.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Erila, for your time, for your insights, for your blueprint, for us, because this is an actual bridge between a global ecosystem to a Latin American ecosystem. And it's my wish that this podcast is a strong piece of educational information, evergreen. So everyone jump in and learn from your words from now on. And I do believe that the mission is accomplished in this episode. So thanks very much for VOWI for build that extraordinary community, but also to got the time to talk about this, your journey, your work, your way to see things and your frameworks. That is such an inspiration.
Thank you very much, Antonieta, and I'd like to thank you. You exemplify the what I mentioned, really being bold, being collaborative, wanting to do things. So I really appreciate your invitation, but also let this be a first kind of a podcast towards a series of podcasts of many inspiring women that we have as part of VOWI or other networks that will talk about their journeys and their expertise. Thank you very much.
Yes, and one thing that I don't want to miss the opportunity to say this. I do believe this collaboration enriched so much. And as I said before, I've been obsessed to have this percentage, this radical diversity. That sounds like too strong, but it's something that I always wanted in every single project that I've been involved with. And I think with your collaboration with the community of VOWI is completely achievable because they're already there and expecting the opportunity to speak out because that's the reason why they are there. So
And
that
I like
excites
that.
me the most.
I like that a lot because usually, even when we kind of offered this uh, opportunity to different women in the network, and well, really, I saw the reluctance sometimes at some point with some women saying, "Should I kind of apply?" Or and this is not because they are great, have extensive experience, knowledge, and all this, but it's back to what we discussed kind of the confidence, or let's say that maybe there are other women who know more than me or who have better degrees or whatever to speak about some issues. But I really want to shake this kind of perception and change this that hey, when for sure you are working in different companies, you have years of experience, done researches, profit pitches or whatever, there are wise things to say, and why not
Yes.
say it, even if that's not your greatest effort. I think I'm sure that people will learn something, but also you have trained yourself to speak up, and in the next opportunity, you might be better.
Yes, yes. And take the courage, take the opportunity. It's something that we all need. Actually, I'm not natural like I'm jumping into ideas rapidly. I overthink too much. But the last couple of years, I've been trying to work on myself, trying to put the intention to, I'm going to jump in. It doesn't matter what is going to happen, but I'm going to learn from that. Like move aside any worries about what is the people saying about me if I do this and that.
You will always be judged, for a reason or another. I always think it, in particular as a woman, you are always judged. I have seen this. So I think exactly as you said, have courage and do what you believe. Believe in your gut, in your intuition. I do believe women have a lot of intuition. I mean, studies also prove that, and really your intuition is the best to rely on, but of course without undermining the power of your education, your experience, people surrounding you. Always have to be humble as well.
Erila, what are your blueprints for success?
So my blueprint for success, I think, has at least four main foundational pillars. One is always looking at the big picture. What's your big goal or your purpose? Second, for me, is really being passion driven and finding motivation in what you do. Whatever I've done that well motivated. I don't know if I've been lucky to have found basically what I like, or I have chased that. And really, people might think sometimes, oh, Erila, you are working too hard. Why are you working too hard? This is just work. I think I've done this because always I find purpose and meaning in what I do. And I don't do things which are not impactful. If I see something that doesn't fit with my values, I don't do that. So I always try to find passion and motivation because work is kind of occupies most of our lives, most time in our day. And if we don't like that, we are miserable. This is what some people feel, and that's why they are not doing, they become demotivated, they get easily burned out, and all this kind of stuff. So the energy, in particular, for me, comes from um, working on innovation or doing innovative stuff. This fuels a lot my energy because I like a lot thinking, rethinking, conceptualizing, creating. Then third is working on in a fast-paced environment. That's why sometimes I like a lot US culture above this part. Might have many flaws, but this is good because you can move forward with things, make decisions fast. You can, as I mentioned, execute fast. I tend to think I am creative, but I want to execute. I'm a doer. So I want to execute, at least start things and iterate down the road. And for me, that's part of the success in general. And the fourth is I am a connector by nature, and I like to connect people. I find joy, even though I don't get any value or direct value out of that. I like to connect people and create networks, and I've been creating networks all my life. There is something about connecting with people or basically building networks or partnerships with a mission that kind of attracts me. I do believe always there is a long-term benefit out of all these networks because right now, for example, I have many people I know all around the world. I can reach out to any for any advice, for any expertise, for a collaboration, for a partnership, for anything. And I think in the end, this is a great benefit. And lastly, this is I would say the overarching value in the blueprint is hard work. And I don't believe in this expression work smart, not hard. I do believe you have to be smart for sure, but you have to work hard because when you work hard, you also uh, see many things. Uh, and I've seen much more, and probably I might be a little bit some steps forward than other peers. I have always been like that, and I believe it's because of what I've seen in my life, and I got this value out from my mother and my parents who have been entrepreneurs and have been working a lot, 14, 15 hours a day.
I want to say just a one thing that resonates a lot with me. Like, it's build and create with purpose. Like, the sense of purpose in whatever you do is the most fulfilling thing. If you can connect with something that brings meaning to you, that's everything. I deeply appreciate for this podcast because the name is Reimagina Blueprints, that is Reimagine Blueprints. But at the same time, I know that it's going to be an awesome inspiration for the others. If you want to say something directly for the VOWI community, because I know they are watching this, so can you give them a few words for all those amazing women?
I am really proud of this community of right now with more than 60, 70 women from more than 20, 30 countries around the world, and all of them represent great voices on innovation as chief innovation officers, as faculty members, or as consultants, basically working in governments and companies, in NGOs. And this is an open invitation to all women out there, despite the region where you are. If you really want a safe space where to talk about different challenges that you have on innovation or in your career, you want to find a space to speak about different topics, write articles, be in a podcast, even share your journey, um, and do plenty of other activities together. I want to be a collective effort and movement of all these great women, including you, Antonieta, providing different opportunities to each other to grow.
Awesome. Awesome. And let's start the conversation and share our knowledge, our stories, and our journeys and your blueprints. So thanks again, Erila, for your time and for this extraordinary opportunity to speak up and raise our
Thank,
voices.
thank you, Antonieta. A pleasure.
Hoy, junto a Erila, aprendimos las mejores prácticas de innovación corporativa para ganar en el mercado y cómo el poder de la comunidad puede generar cambios reales. En nuestro próximo episodio conversaremos con el bioquímico Jonathan Betts, quien nos cuenta su viaje desde el laboratorio hasta el mundo de las startups y su visión sobre ese punto donde la ciencia y los negocios se encuentran. This resilient talent is out. To keep Reimagine Blueprints and learning shortcuts for impact, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next one.